everybody. It's us again talking about this great show on HBO Max. If you're not watching it, if you like me, never got into Game of Thrones and say, that's not my scene, you might want to consider giving House of the Dragon. It's only up to 9 episodes, so you can sort of catch up pretty quick. And like me, after this first season is done, I'm going to head right into Game of Thrones, and eventually I will be fully knowledgeable. I'll catch all the Easter eggs eventually. So anyway, it's a great show. We both love it. We're going to talk about episode 9, The Green Council, which aired a few days ago. But first, quickly, we'll talk about our membership, our Cinemondo YouTube membership, emojis, member shout-outs, priority replies, badges, $2.99 a month.
So cheap.
And $4.99 a month gets you that plus member request videos. You request a video, we will eventually or soonly review it and give a shout-out to you. So consider it.
Join the Slack channel. Slack channel gets you direct contact with us. You get to discuss in our little family group Slack. You get to talk to all of us.
It's really fun. So let's talk about episode 9, The Green Council.
Okay.
What were your thoughts?
So I guess then this is spoilers. I guess Daenerys is really dead. That was the first thing.
Yeah, he's really dead, and they kind of spread the news. The handmaid comes up to her, to the queen, and she's obviously.
I like how they did it. I like how everything was really quiet and empty. It's almost like they kind of showed you that the heart had gone out of the show. Like the lights were off because you see like the room, it was dark, and you see the hallways, they're just empty. And everything seems dark and gray because Allison's taking down all the fun stuff, made it really gross. Yeah. And then, like I said, there's a little boy running and he's spreading the rumor.
Right. As they
really
do.
Really nicely done. Really, just it gave you a minute to sort of mourn him in a way, which I really, really thought was nice.
Because I miss him. I know he was bedridden the last 2 episodes, or at least the last ones especially. But
they carried him around a little bit.
They did. So he's gone, and so once everybody finds out, they have this meeting.
Oh my God, they do not waste any time. Like, okay, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? And I gotta say, I miss Paddy Considine. He was so great, and he was such a nice, completely ill-equipped guy for King, but he kept the peace for a very long time.
Right.
And that it will not continue. First of all, we know because some of us watch Game of Thrones. We know the shit goes down. But also, once he left, like he didn't want to have wars. He didn't want to do all the power mongering. He just would like clamp down on anyone trying to pull moves. And then what was frustrating for everyone, we had a peaceful kingdom.
Yeah. Now everybody, the vultures are coming in. Otto Hightower has a plan, and so they're all. But the Queen Allison says, "Well,
yes.
Go ahead.
The deathbed.
Yes.
Is that what you're going to talk about? The deathbed. We heard that in the last episode, and we were trying to figure out what did that mean. And she had walked away saying, "I hear you, my king." And she, I know what you want me to do. And I'm thinking, I don't think she knows what she does. I don't think she got that. I don't think that's what he meant.
No, it's not.
He was not in his right mind. I mean,
well, that's what I thought. He was just sort of delirious. He's near death. The names. I can't. I'm perfectly healthy, and I can't figure out the names.
And so, I feel like he was, in a way, kind of like blathering on about that those sons should be killed, so they can't be a risk to the throne. That's how I was getting it. She took it as like, aha.
So Aegon.
Guess what, everyone?
Yeah,
the last minute.
Yeah. Aegon, and of course everybody's like, they're thrilled. They're like, oh my God, like this is manna from heaven.
It's like, oh, that's what we wanted all along. In fact, we've been planning for it. And then she kind of went, excuse me?
Right.
Wait, you've been planning this? What does this mean? So I think she felt a little betrayed, even though it's what she wanted, that her council had been plotting behind her back to put him in as king anyway. So that was kind of a little bit like, what? Wait a minute.
Well, yeah, I mean, she kind of knows later on in the episode, she talks about how men rule, and we have to sort of, as women, we sort of have to kind of guide them to what we want them to do.
Yes.
But Lord Beesbury, who is, the oldest guy, who's, I'm 6 and 70 years old, I know him longer, blah, blah, blah. They quickly take care of him.
Well, they didn't take care. Like, I don't know if it was on purpose, but it wasn't good. Like, Christian Cole is a loose cannon now. We don't know what he's going to do, right? So he walks over to him and he's like, sit down. And he pushes him down. And this is like the hot knight that has turned his back on Rhaenyra, right? Well, she turned back on him, but it's quibbles. So he pushed him down and he totally smashed his head right into those little marble, like, ball things. And he totally, like, bashed his skull in. And everybody was kind of like, okay, well, we'll just continue with the meeting.
Yes.
It's like, what?
Right, but that kind of happens when people get together in this show. Shit happens, and it usually ends up with blood.
More than two people, and it's just not good.
So the show just continues on that they've got to find Aegon because they don't know where he is.
That's the big mystery. Is that how's Aegon going to find out he's going to be king? No one knows where he is. He's the little rapist. He's the one that is completely worthless. That had raped a lot of handmaids, and everyone's been talking about it, and they've been shutting them up or killing them. We're not sure by paying them off and giving them a specialty. They probably just pass around the same amount of money and killing them off. Is my guess.
So two sets of two teams go out. Kristen and Aegon's brother, whose name is I don't know, but the guy with the chiseled chin. They go out, and then the twins go out, and it's who's going to get is it going to be Otto's guys or is it going to be the Queen's?
It's Argon, right? That's the part. It's Aegon and Argon. Argon's the scary looking. Argon's the scary one. That's a total should be the king, even though he'd be terrible. But Eagon is a completely doesn't want to be ne'er-do-well, lazy, laying there. He does not want it, but Argon does it. But he's kind of
he's sort of well, listen, you don't have any argument with me, later on in the episode. But he said, I don't want to be queen. I was you don't have
with me. I agree. You're not cut out for this, but you're doing it anyway. Which I was kind of surprising because we had the two teams. One was sent by Hightower, Alicent's father, and one was sent by Alicent's, her team. And one of them was going to kill him, and one of the teams was going to rescue him or find him, right?
Right.
And when they all get there, each team kind of divided. I felt like the team that was going to kill him kind of went, I don't know about killing him. But so he just kind of, when they get in the big fight, the two knights who were looking for him, he just kind of lets him have a sword fight. And he's not helping because he's I'm not getting involved in this shit.
He walks away. It was a weird.
Bye.
Yeah, there were some odd things.
Very strange.
That was a strange thing. A few other strange sort of things that happened in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, they bring him back, and he doesn't want to be king, but he's going to be king.
Crying and sniveling. Now, before we get too far into the Aegon storyline, can we talk about one scene that I haven't really heard many people talk about? It was Larys and Alicent having their little trade. What the hell? Have we seen that yet? That was a new one.
We haven't, but
we were always wondering, what's Larys getting out of this? He's given her all this information. He's killing off all her enemies. What is he getting out of it? Well, now we know.
It's called, and it said before the show starts, it says, graphic violence. And it was sexual coercion. I said, I wonder what that is, And sure enough, it's Alicent sort of taking off her shoes and socks. And
he's got a foot fetish.
He's got a foot fetish. And
I love it. She starts on just a little bit of her feet. And he's telling her stuff. And he's kind of I kind of not quite sure what to do about it. She's like, ugh. So she kind of turns aside and pulls the skirt more to show a little calf now. And he's all ah. And you're just don't put your hand there. Oh, please cut away. I don't want to see it.
So they've obviously that is the barter here. That is what's been going on, and it's just Alicent putting up with this guy who is
Alicent. Seriously.
Well, she sort of sold her. In many ways, she's just bending to try. She's a good at politics, I think, in a way. She's sort of trying to finagle this. I don't know if she's good, but she's trying to game it. And
they have that great conversation. She goes to talk to Rhaenys. She's like you said, the queen who never was, Viserys' sister, who it was between him and her, and of course they picked the man, right? Yeah. So she even talks about that, you just enable men. That's all you do. You basically prop up the men, put them in power, do what they say, and she had that great line that was you don't want freedom, you just want to put a window in your prison. And I love that idea because it's kind of she thinks she's getting power, but she's just basically empowering another man. So I thought that was a great line, and that's when you knew Rhaenys was I'm not going to do what you're saying. And so the first thing, I'm not going to bend the knee to you, not going to bend my knee to Aegon. I'm going to go straight to Rhaenyra and tell her what the fuck's going on. And so they keep her locked in her room.
They keep her locked up. And then there's a scene where somebody comes in to try to hey, you've got to leave. And it's it's the day of the coronation of Aegon. And so she's, trying to get away, but of course there's throngs of crowds waiting to see.
It wasn't just anyone. It was Eric, the one who just walked away from the fight.
Right. So that's his.
So he's trying to enable. He wants Rhaenyra to also find out. So he's trying to enable Rhaenys to get out of there.
Right.
So he's putting himself at risk.
He is. So yeah, it's just there's so much fun, kind of cool stuff happening, and there's a lot of great writing in this.
Yes.
For sure, I thought it was really the dialogue was excellent.
Oh, so much good stuff.
Yeah, and
so they're running through the streets. They're here's Eric taking Rhaenys through the streets, and all of a sudden there's huge crowds everywhere, and you find out all the knights, everyone's getting rounded up to go to the coronation. So not one villager's going, voluntarily. They're all being herded and sent to. So they have this huge crowd for his what you call it, his
coronation or
coronation,
whatever, crowning, whatever it's called,
So they want to make a big deal out of it, so he feels kingly. They want to make sure they impress upon him that it's not just some Joe Blow guy. It's like, look, it's it. And technically, it is Daenerys' son, and they are of the blood that everybody wanted. So technically, even though that wasn't what Viserys wanted, they have, I think, a more legitimate claim on the throne than her two sons, who are the brunettes that have no blood in them.
Well, I think you're right, because he does have the blood, and he did say it, even though he didn't really mean it.
He didn't mean it.
It's just the question is, how long will he stay king?
How long? I mean, so I love too. They have that great procession where I love how he looks too. This guy is a perfect cast. He looks so bratty. He's got kind of these hollow eyes, and they're all kind of dark underneath. And
he's kind of doughy, and
he's like, he looks like an influencer, kind of,
Yeah,
like a millennial. So he's like walking through, and they have all these knights lined up with these swords that are like poised, like almost like a steeple over him. And as he walks through, they come down, and it gives this beautiful effect of these swords coming down behind him. Gorgeous.
Like you can't escape from the fact that
you are trapped.
There's no way. You only go one way, because there's swords.
But it also looked super cool. All the crowd that was there going, "Oh, he's on the path to the king, and this is what it looks like to have all these knights protecting you." And
right.
So all these, these villagers are like, "What is going on exactly?" Because they don't even know that the king is dead.
Right. So Hightower comes out and says, this is the saddest day, but this is also a joyous day. King Viserys is dead, but we have the new king Aegon, the Conqueror, or whatever, coming, and so. It's like, okay, so everybody's sort of like, okay, I guess, we have to do that.
I guess, who is this guy? I don't know. And so then they have the big, they say their speech, and they put the crown on his head. And even then, the guy's kind of rolling his eyes going, I don't want to be king. Ugh.
Yeah, and his back is sort of towards the crowd, he's sort of looking around. And then they sort of say, okay, start clapping, start making a big stink, and like,
And they kind of get into it. Like, he turns around, and he kind of sees the crowd. He's like anyone, he's totally like entranced by this massive audience here for him. And so he just kind of grabs the sword and puts it up in the air, and they start applauding, and he's all getting off on it now. He's like, hey, I could do this. This is fun. Like, I'm into it.
Well, the folks are saying, well, he is a son, and he's got the blonde hair, so this is legit.
I guess this will work.
Yeah, why not?
It's what Viserys wanted, I guess.
Yeah, we don't know this guy. We don't know that he's a jackass. Obviously.
No, nobody knows. He's just royalty.
Yeah, just the brothel folks.
In the meantime, Rhaenys, who's been also with the crowd, dressed like a villager, no one notices her. Like, she kind of slips out the back door, like down these stairs. Which I'm like, she talked earlier when Eric was taking her through the crowd. She's like, I gotta get to the dragon pit. He was like, no, it's too obvious. And I'm thinking, just take her to the fucking dragon pit. Who cares if it's obvious, because that dragon's going to kill any guard who tried to stop her. So I was kind of pissed that he made her go in there. I was like,
yeah, it was weird, but still, the big reveal at the end.
So here we are, the big applause.
The big applause. He's the new king. Everybody's happy, especially everybody on the throne. On the throne. And all
this was like a big explosion or something. It was weird. It's like,
I thought for some reason, I was thinking, is that like a bomb go off?
I know, it was weird. Bodies flying, Yeah. It was insane.
And Rhaenys comes up.
It was so cool. Dragon comes up through the stone floor. Just bam! Here's Rhaenys riding it. She looks so cool. This was such a great moment. I loved it.
It was, because you really felt for her the whole series. Like this, she got shafted from episode
left and right.
Yeah, the whole way. Her husband is, I guess, dead or presumed dead. I don't know what happened to him, but
well, that was the weird thing too. Corlys is just like, well, 6 years ago he went off on a ship and he never came back, so we assume he said we don't know. And they're like, wait, what? They just took him off the show. So I'm assuming you don't see the body. Maybe he'll be back.
Maybe he'll be back. But anyway, so
in the meantime, she has been a widow for 6 years.
She's just been thrown to the side, cast to the side, and so
her son has been killed, but we know he's not killed. Her husband is missing. Her whole family's gone.
She's just like by herself. But she comes up and she's just riding with
she's riding that cool
triumphant, like ballsy, like
red dragon is so cool looking.
And the dragon is staring right at.
Yeah.
But
it's kind of connected to her. Like you can feel her thoughts. Like it knows that she thinks these people just looking at her. It's all wings are up in her, and you're like, do it.
So what happens interestingly here is like you think, okay, now here's her chance. One blast of fire, and they're obliterated. Yes.
But Dracarys, right?
Yeah. Instead, she doesn't.
And then the dragon does this big roar, and here's Alicent standing in front of her disgusting rapist son.
Yeah.
She's protecting her, and then Rhaenys is like, I'm just going to go. So she flies away, and you're like, what the fuck?
Well,
you could have solved all of these problems.
I know.
All of them.
I know. So it was like, what was her motivation? Again, going back there, that's a very odd choice for her because she could have just done that easy peasy, and then she comes in. Instead, she quote unquote takes the high road, but maybe it's a stupid road. I don't know, and turns around and obviously heads back to Daemon and Rhaenyra, who have not been in this episode.
They have no idea. No, Daemon and Rhaenyra are completely clued out. Like they're all off in their own castle. They have no idea that the king is dead. They have no idea that they've been doing all this plotting and scheming, and for some dumb reason. I just don't understand. It was very frustrating for me. I mean, I know the show would be way too cleaned up and over.
Well, I think it's the last episode. I think it's 10 episodes. It's not for some reason I heard there was 11, but I don't know if it is.
No, there's one more episode.
Just okay. So 10 episodes. So obviously she's going to go back, and the big finale is they're coming back to take the throne, and that's going to be fantastic. So
maybe. Well,
we'll see.
Here's the thing, because we know that there's one big happy Westeros right now. We know it all breaks apart and goes to shit, and there's war everywhere. It's like no one. So apparently, because of this one weak ass decision, which I'm still pissed about, we're gonna have world war because she couldn't just finish the job.
Yeah.
I watched the filmmakers talking about this afterwards, and the writer Condon, is that his name, Condon?
Yeah.
He said the controversial decision that not everyone agrees with is that Rhaenys could have burned them all alive and destroyed them all, and we would have had world peace from then on. But she decided she couldn't hurt a mother protecting her child, so she took it. I'm like, are you freaking serious right now? That is the reason? This terrible sniveling idiot who's being protected by this backstabbing horrible queen who shows her feet to the grossest person in the kingdom. That's who you're protecting.
But she is the sister to King Viserys, who was also a kind, gentle person. He wasn't a king. He wasn't a ruthless king. And so in a way, she's sort of like him in that she doesn't have that. She doesn't have the
killer instinct.
She doesn't have that.
See, that's when I'm like, damn it, if we'd only had Daemon, he would have done the right thing. He would have flown in there, just took them all out. That's when I was really rooting for the Matt Smith, sociopath that he is. That's when we needed Daemon.
Well, he's going to do something, but of course, if the series goes to season 2, which I'm assuming it definitely will. So obviously, stuff has to still be around. There has to be conflict. You just can't.
Oh, there's plenty of conflict. We have 200 years till Game of Thrones, so there's lots to do.
Right. So I just don't know how the first season will end as far as,
what would be
I'm going to think it's going to be an all-out war, but maybe not. Maybe it'll just be sort of a lead-up and sort of a tease to something.
I can't remember. I read the book so long ago, and because at the time I read it, I didn't know a lot about Game of Thrones, didn't understand the history. So when I read it, I didn't understand the implications of the characters and the names, so I do not remember how it ended. I don't remember if Rhaenys comes back. I don't remember. So, yeah. It's still a mystery even to me. Yes,
that's a good thing, So anyway, it was just I thought, and Claire Kilner directed this episode as well as episodes 1 and 5, and I think and 5 was the last sort of the old act, before the big time jump, and I think she's she's one of the strongest director out of the ones I've seen. I think
she gets some of the best episodes for sure.
And and I think the writing is also first class.
So good.
So it's setting you up for the big showdown for the end of season 1.
So excited!
Who's going to die? Because some of them will die. There will be
death. Yeah. I just don't want to be dragons. I just don't want it.
Oh, I don't think the dragons are going to die.
No, there's lots of dragon death. But I hope you're getting primed to sort of be in the zone for Game of Thrones and reappreciate it, because it was kind of like you're coming in cold to Game of Thrones. You didn't quite get the vibe. But now that you've seen this, Game of Thrones will make a lot more sense to you.
Well, exactly. And I watched the first, it was just, I didn't get into it, but now this is a great sort of, jumping off point to get into it.
Yeah.
And hopefully, if they're really smart, I mean, I'm sure they are, there'll be a lot of Easter eggs for me, like early seasons, like, it kind of ties back to characters I know from.
That's true, and I bet if I watched it again, I'd have a whole new understanding, because there's a lot of names being thrown around. They talk about the Mad King and the Dragon Flyers and all that, and I didn't know who they were. They didn't have any relevance, but now we're getting to know them.
Right. So
but the only thing that I thought the House of the Dragon was missing, like I said before, we don't have the humor. We don't have a Peter Dinklage angle. We don't have anything that kind of is a character quirk that gives the show a little bit of levity where there should be some, but that's okay. It's a different show, and it's leaner, less people, serious business, lots of pieces getting pushed into position, and now we have this, and so it's gonna be awesome.
What people tell me about Game of Thrones versus this is there's a lot more characters, a lot more worlds. It's a lot more outdoor stuff. Like real villages. We saw some of that in this episode.
Yeah.
You saw actual real places versus CGI.
Right.
So maybe they're sort of moving into that. But to me, I like it small. I like it lean.
Yeah.
Understand it. I'm not going.
It's great.
What's happening? So episode 9, the Green.
All right.
It's just setting us up for a fantastic episode next week.
So stressful.
Yeah. So please, again, I don't want to keep harping on it, but I never watched Game of Thrones, and I'm loving the show. So, so that should tell you something.
That's right. That should tell you a lot. Because we have been nagging him to watch Game of Thrones, and I thought, he's not going to watch this show and like it. And you like it.
I do like it, and I'm very happy to talk about it. So,
very cool.
And I enjoy doing these episodes. We can do it with other once this season is over. Maybe there's another show we can pick up and talk about. And and go from there. So anyway, episode 9. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next week when we do the finale of season 1.
So sad when things end. Okay, see you later.
Bye.